They found the door. They always do, not because you left it open, because they were looking, specifically, for the door that was yours. And you have spent 6 episodes understanding exactly how that works, how they profile, how they select, how they move before you see movement. This episode is different. This is the one where the door closes, not with armor, not with coldness, not by becoming someone smaller and harder and less capable of feeling, with precision. By the end of this episode, you will understand 3 specific disciplines used by people who have become genuinely difficult to manipulate, and why those disciplines work against dark personalities in ways that blunt refusal and distrust never do. The defended mind is not a wall. It is a different kind of intelligence. And it starts with understanding what happens in the moments before you even realize a targeting sequence has begun. Here is what most people never see. Before the manipulation begins, before the love bombing, before the isolation, before the first move in the campaign, there is a phase that researchers have studied extensively, but that almost no one outside academic psychology has named clearly. Psychologists who study dark triad behavior, including the work of Peter Jonassen and Norman Webster on what they called the Dirty Dozen Trait Inventory in 2010, describe a consistent early behavioral pattern. The person with elevated dark triad traits is gathering information, not passively, actively. They are watching what makes you smile, what makes you flinch, what you defend reflexively, and what you go quiet about. They are watching the gap between what you say and what your face does. They are testing which version of themselves gets the warmest response from you. And then they become that version. Picture this. You've just met someone at a work event. They're attentive. They remember details from 20 minutes ago. They ask follow-up questions that feel almost too perceptive. You leave the conversation thinking, this person really listened. That feeling, that specific feeling of being deeply understood quickly, is often the first product of the calibration phase, not genuine intimacy. This is the phase where their agenda is set and yours is read. And here is the editorial truth that most psychology content never says plainly. The calibration phase is not something dark personalities do consciously in most cases. For individuals high in psychopathic or Machiavellian traits, social scanning is so automatic, so deeply wired by years of practiced use, that they are not deciding to do it. They are just doing it, the way the rest of us breathe. Which means waiting for them to slip up during this phase is not a reliable defense strategy. Because there is no effort involved that could produce a slip. The defense against the calibration phase is not vigilance. It is what comes next. The first discipline is this: slow trust extension, not suspicion, not a cold wall that keeps everyone out. A deliberate practice of giving access to your interior life at a pace that reveals whether someone is safe before they have everything they need to use it against you. Think about how trust actually works with most people. Someone shows warmth. You feel warmth. You reciprocate, and you reciprocate quickly. Because warmth is disarming, and because most of the time, warmth is genuine. This is normal. This is human. But a person high in dark triad traits exploits exactly this sequence. They manufacture warmth. You feel warmth. You reciprocate. And in reciprocating, you hand over information about your needs, your fears, your history, your soft points, before you have any behavioral evidence that this person is trustworthy. Slow trust extension disrupts this sequence without changing who you are. It looks like this. You stay warm, curious, engaged, but you do not volunteer your wounds in the first 3 conversations. You do not explain your deepest insecurities because the atmosphere feels intimate. You let time accumulate. You watch what they do with small pieces of information before you give them larger ones. You notice whether what they learn about you appears later as leverage or as care. Why and Tiliopoulos, in their 2012 study on empathy profiles within dark triad personalities, found that individuals high in psychopathy and Machiavellianism show intact cognitive empathy, the ability to accurately read what you are feeling, combined with deficient affective empathy, no corresponding emotional resonance. They see your pain clearly. They simply do not feel it. Slow trust extension gives cognitive empathy nothing to work with. You're allowed to be warm and still be careful. Both things can be true. The second discipline requires understanding something Robert Hare documented across decades of psychopathy research using the psychopathy checklist revised, what clinicians sometimes call the conscience test. Here is what this means in practice. When most people do something that causes harm, even unintentionally, there is a visible sequence: acknowledgement, some form of discomfort, and an attempt at repair. You see this even in small moments. Someone accidentally interrupts you mid-sentence. They notice. Their face shifts. They say something to correct it. This sequence, notice, feel, repair, is so universal that we have stopped seeing it. It is the background noise of human interaction. A person without a functioning conscience produces a different sequence. They do not notice the harm unless it is pointed out. When it is pointed out, they do not feel discomfort. They feel inconvenience, or irritation, or mild calculation about how to manage your response. The repair, when it comes, is performed rather than felt. The apology arrives in the right words and none of the right weight. Now here is how to read this in real time. Small moments are more diagnostic than large ones. Watch what someone does when they take the last of something without asking and you notice. Watch what they do when they forget something that mattered to you. Watch what they do when they are 40 minutes late with no acknowledgement. You are not looking for perfection. You are looking for the notice, feel, repair sequence. The genuine version is imperfect, awkward, sometimes over-explained. The performed version is smooth, well-worded, and somehow leaves you feeling less reassured, not more. That gap, between the fluency of the apology and the emptiness behind it, is something the body registers before the mind articulates it. Learning to trust that registration is the conscience test. The third discipline is the one most people misunderstand. They hear the word unreadable and they picture someone cold, guarded, difficult, someone who has survived by becoming smaller and harder. That is not what unreadable means in this context. Unreadable means not handing your emotional state to the room. High dark triad individuals, and Jonason and Webster's research specifically identified emotional reactivity as a key vulnerability they exploit. Read your emotional state the way a navigator reads weather. If you are visibly anxious, they know what to offer. If you are visibly proud, they know what to mirror back to you. If you are visibly hurt, they know exactly how long to withhold comfort before delivering it so that the delivery lands with maximum effect. Think of someone you know who never loses their composure publicly, not because they feel nothing, but because they have separated the experience of an emotion from the performance of it. They feel the frustration. They do not hand it to the room immediately. They feel the disappointment. They do not display it in real time for whoever is watching. This is not suppression. Suppression is what happens when you pretend you feel nothing. This is something closer to timing, choosing when to share your interior life and with whom, rather than letting every state be visible and available. A person who cannot read your emotional state in real time cannot calibrate their approach to it. If you've ever been told you're too emotional or too open, let this be clear. Your openness was not the flaw. Someone in your environment was exploiting access to it. The defended mind is not colder. It is more selective. The warmth is still there. It is no longer broadcast. Here is what the defended mind actually feels like from the inside. It does not feel like armor. It does not feel like fear organized into strategy. It feels like a quiet kind of authority, a sense that you are choosing what to extend and to whom based on evidence rather than atmosphere. 3 practices. Carry them. First, slow your trust to match their behavior, not their warmth. Warmth is cheap. Consistent behavior over time is not. Let time accumulate before you give someone access to your interior life. This is not suspicion. It is patience with your own disclosure. Second, watch the small moments. The conscience test reveals itself in the unremarkable, what someone does when they are late, when they take something without asking, when they cause a small harm and think you might not notice. The small moments are not trivial. They are the most honest data you will get. Third, practice emotional timing. You do not have to broadcast every state. You can feel everything you feel and still choose the moment and the person you share it with. The warmth stays. The access becomes deliberate. None of this requires becoming someone harder. It requires becoming someone more precise. The dark personalities studied by Hare, Jonason, Y, and others are not more intelligent than you. They are more practiced at reading access. Close the access, and the practice has nothing to work with. Your empathy was never the problem. The problem was someone standing at the door you left open, because you assumed others kept theirs open for the same reasons you did. A note on safety. If you are still inside a relationship where naming any of this, even silently to yourself, could put you at risk, professionally, financially, or personally, your safety comes first. Defense is not a confrontation strategy. It is internal precision. None of this replaces a conversation with a qualified professional who can help you assess and plan with the full context of your situation. That assumption was generous. It was also the mechanism. Now you understand the mechanism. That is not a small thing. You have spent 7 episodes building a map, from the architecture of dark personalities, through the targeting sequence, through the specific moment they read your door as open. The next series goes somewhere different. Not personalities. Tactics. Because dark triad individuals do not work in abstraction. They work in specific moves: gaslighting, silent treatment, isolation, triangulation, each designed to produce a specific result in the person on the receiving end. The manipulation files breaks down those tactics one by one, not to catalog how to use them, to show you exactly how to read them in real time, while they are happening, before the damage is done. If the defended mind gave you the foundation, the manipulation files give you the field guide. The first tactic we examine is the one most people experience, but almost no one can accurately name while it is happening. The defended mind does not fear what it can see clearly.